my name is Melanya, and I'm excited to talk to you tonight about GLP-1 nutrition, specifically what to eat, why it matters, and how to make it last. I am a dietitian, a chef educator, and a health education specialist, and I kind of work in the space of mindset and behavior around food. So not just helping people know what to do, but how to do it in their own lives and make it stick, more or less. So that's what we're going to get into today in and around GLP-1s. So I know folks are coming from a lot of different places on this. People get, curious about what GLP-1s do. Maybe some people are on the fence whether or not this is for them, or they've heard about it, or they're considering taking it. Maybe you've already got a prescription, maybe you're on this journey, maybe you're towards the end of the journey. We have folks all along that continuum. So wherever you are in this, you're in the right place. You'll get something out of this talk tonight. Whether it's a little confidence, some information to help you make your decision, or even just some tips to how to keep your body healthy while you're on this. If we want to explore the risks and benefits, we're going to do that this evening. If you're anxious about some of the long-term implications, I know there's a little bit of ambivalence in the world around, not ambivalence, but I can't think of the word I'm trying to, oh well. It's a little obscure what these medications do in the long run. So I know there's some hesitancy about that. So we'll talk about that too. We'll go through the side effects. I know that's a big hot topic. What can happen on these, how to manage what happens when it happens. Just not just from a health standpoint, but just from a quality of life standpoint too, right? So we're not losing our minds while we're on this medication and kind of living with things maybe we shouldn't be living with. We'll talk about what to eat to reduce some of these side effects. Again, I may not be able to touch on the whole gambit of things because nutrition does get pretty person specific, but you will walk away with, with a kind of an outline that you can apply to your own life here. And a little bit of a plan to get you started or just amend whatever your current plan is. So we'll wrap up at the end talking about how to maintain these results so you don't have to keep doing this again and again. And for what it's worth, the maintenance does work, GLP-1 or no GLP-1. So you can take that even if you're just on a really low maintenance dose for a while. You can take it if you're coming off the GLP-1, even if you never started a GLP-1 in the first place, that should still apply to you. So that'll be kind of the end game. As you have questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. If you don't feel comfortable asking publicly, I very much understand. This can be a sensitive topic for people. You're always welcome to email me your questions. I would just ask that you don't put any specific health information in the email as it's not a secure communication channel. And while I'm a dietitian, I'm not your dietitian. So, but I'm happy to answer questions. And if it is about you in specific, you can just say, well, I know someone who would want to know this, kind of phrase it that way. Um, anyway, let's press on. A little bit about me, because I'm pretty sure everyone, maybe not everyone, I might know a couple folks on here this evening. You're new to me, so we don't know each other yet. So let me introduce myself again. Like I said, my name is Melanya. I talked about my credentials. I've been practicing as a dietitian for about 15 years in both the US and Canada. And I come from a background in culinary medicine, where I led the creation of the world's largest teaching kitchen at a single integrated healthcare system. And that might not seem relevant, but that gave me this really amazing experience of learning how people operate in real life when it comes to nutrition and all the points along that continuum of our experience with food, from thinking about food, deciding what to eat, shopping, cooking, prepping, all of that, and all of the different opportunities we have to adjust things along the way and where the most impact makes most sense. I've helped about 40,000 clients achieve sustainable nutrition changes throughout my career. And since GLP-1s are a little bit new, I haven't helped as many people on them, but it's still up around 500 or more. So I do have some experience under my belt with the GLP-1s, and that's just going to continue to grow because a lot of people are on them now. So I think they're going to be around for a bit. And And yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a second in terms of like the long-term bit. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but just to share a little bit about me and my story, I'll kind of keep this short. Um, I became a dietitian and I was already a chef educator from kind of an apprenticeship situation. I have gone to culinary school, but not what we think of as a classical chef training. However, I don't work as a classical chef. I teach people how to cook and teach them how to interact and experience food differently. So I never really missed that part too much. But I always loved cooking and food and nutrition, like talking about nutrition in terms of the food that we eat, always made sense versus talking about it in terms of the nutrients. And when we start reducing things to nutrients, we lose a lot of the quality of what food gives us in life. It is sustenance, it is the building blocks of our body, but it's so much more than that. It is what we connect together as human beings, right? We come together over food. It's a big part of our culture, our lifestyles. A lot of us, subconsciously or not, um, build a lot of our lifestyle around food and eating. So it's this big thing for us, and we can't really reduce it to just one simple thing, which makes it more complex. But I think it also opens up a lot of opportunity. Um, so I have a lot of health anxiety just right off the bat. I'm very concerned with my health, which is really why I went into dietetics to begin with, so I could kind of know what was going in there and be very proactive about things. And as a dietitian, I think a lot of this happened to a lot of people around COVID. Um, a lot of people gained weight. It was a globally stressful event. Our lives changed. I don't know anybody that wasn't untouched by that in some form or fashion. And a lot of people are carrying a lot of extra stress now. And I went through that too, in addition to a lot of life stress, which I'm sure a lot of other people have done as well. And I went on this journey of having to lose weight myself for the first time in my life. I'd always been able to manage my weight, but I do have kind of genetics working against me a little bit in that regard. So it is an uphill battle. And that just made it even more uphill. Um, so I do this professionally, but I've also had personal experience um, applying this as a real person living a real life. So there's certain things that translate from the book, and there's certain things that just don't because we're very intricate and emotional and complex creatures. So I'm going to give you a little bit of both perspectives in today's talk because to me, it doesn't make sense to try to do something if it's not going to be sustainable. Meaning we can do lots of things for a very short time, but if this is going to become our new lifestyle, our new habits, our new patterns, it's got to be something that fits. It's got to be something with less resistance, right? That we can keep going, and that way we can manage our health long term and stop starting over, right? Stop reinventing the wheel, that kind of thing. Um, and this last picture, I threw this in there. I know it's not related to cooking or nutrition, but just to share like a little bit of myself outside of this, I like to play dress up and go to fantasy balls and do medieval reenactment. So those are my big hobbies. So I am more than, my point is I'm also a real person living with these struggles. And I'm here to help. That's really what it is. All right. So my main, like I said before, kind of where the space I work in, my main point here with pretty much all of the work that I do is to help reduce food noise, decision fatigue, and uncertainty around eating. We get bombarded with nutrition information all the time, whether it's right or wrong, needed or not needed. It's out there, right? And I want to point something out here that I think underscores a lot of the struggle around that is that there's a difference between knowing and doing. And that's what a lot of people get hung up on. We know things, we know ourselves. Most people know the basics. But even if they don't, um, there's still that difference between knowing how to do something and actually doing it, right? Concept is different than action and repetition and familiarity. And I work in that space in between the mindset, the behaviors, the influences from our environment, everything that factors into why we make the choices we make around food. And I just have to say, nutrition isn't one size fits all. And that's why it's so bothersome too, because we hear stories of what worked for one person, or we see this worked for someone else, or we so and so had this happen and blah, 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 recommended that. But everybody's situation is different, right? We all have different genetics, different lifestyles, different people we live with, different socioeconomic factors, different priorities, different goals, right? All of that factors in. So nutrition information doesn't translate as well as maybe some other things do in life. And that just makes it feel a lot more overwhelming than it needs to be. So I also help people connect those dots for themselves and make healthy eating and living easy and sustainable. Just a quick disclaimer on what tonight's session is and what it isn't. Although I am a dietitian and a health education specialist, I just want to be very clear that this is nutrition education, and I am not your medical provider and I am not your dietitian. If you would like to work with me, we can talk about that separately, but this content is for education purposes and doesn't replace personalized medical or nutrition advice from your healthcare team. I'm here to educate, to guide, and if something comes up, either a question or a topic that you might have, please don't hesitate to ask. I can take that conversation offline with you, or I can kind of let you know, hey, this kind of goes into this territory, and we'll talk about what that would look like if you live in a region that I'm licensed in, and we could work together, or if it's something you should bring to your own healthcare team that you already have. So. What I can do is teach, ask reflection questions, and help you think a little bit more clearly and confidently around your food choices. And that's what we will do this evening. So let's get to the good stuff. What's a GLP-1? Great question. Great question, Melanya. It's a the full name is GLP-1 receptor agonist, but lots of words, lots of letters. We kind of shorten it. Simply put, it is a hormone that we already produce, and that's what signals fullness to our body. So effectively, taking a GLP-1 agonist stimulates that hormone or provides that hormone, and it makes us feel full. So it's a form of an appetite suppressant. And what it does is it works in such a fashion as that it weakens or even removes the hunger cues that our brain receives. So we may not even perceive the feeling of hunger. This actually has a little bit more fallout, as I'll talk about shortly. But that's kind of the big way it works and the big why for a lot of people taking this medication. Now there's other whys too. We can use it for weight loss, managing certain conditions, reducing inflammation. That kind of why is very personalized, but all in all, it does still tend to put a damper on the appetite. The amount and the like how much you feel this, that's up to your all of your situation and your genetics. There's really no way to say how aggressively this medication will affect you. So often folks are started on a lower dose just to kind of see how you respond, and then we go up from there. So as far as dosing goes, and again, this is very much up to your healthcare team and your medical provider. They will help you figure that one out, just because there is a little bit of a give and play, and not every dose works well for every person. So it's about finding the most effective dose for you, weighing the risks and the benefits there. But another big piece of this, because it acts in our metabolism and appetite, that whole pathway, it also helps our body regulate insulin, which is another hormone. And that's largely responsible for conveying blood glucose out of our bloodstream, delivering it to our body cells, and that metabolic pathway. So one thing I want to put in here, I know I'm saying a lot of like technical terms. I'm trying not to too much without under explaining it, but two big things is it's not just appetite, it's also metabolism related. So I want to keep that in mind, because that plays a role in optimizing nutrition, that plays a role in our energy, like how fatigued we feel, that also plays a role in weight plateaus, perhaps. So just remember that we are taking something that interferes with an integral piece of our metabolic response to food. and our internal sense of hunger and fullness, which can kind of be like taking a sensory away. Like if we were deaf or blind, like we removed a sense, that can sometimes be what it's like to not feel hunger anymore. It's difficult to interact with food sometimes when we don't feel that sensation. Um, and we want to suppress it. We don't want to make it go away entirely because it becomes very difficult to eat if it does go away entirely. Yeah. So benefits versus risks. And again, this is a big thing. I'm hoping this slide will help give you some maybe thoughts to bring to your medical team and discuss with them, but things to kind of be aware of. And everyone is different in terms of weighing their specific benefits and risks. But a lot of the benefits are that reduction in appetite. If we struggle with having too big of an appetite or food gets away, we eat a lot and we don't really shut that off or we can't shut that off. That's a very helpful feature. The weight loss that comes with it is also very helpful for a lot of people. Blood sugar regulation is a big reason people take these medications in addition to other types of maybe inflammatory or metabolic conditions. Oh, I think we have a live mic somewhere. I just heard a little background sound. Um, we're starting to see some benefits from a cardiovascular standpoint. I would say the jury is still out a little bit on that one, but it seems to be at least be neutral, so it's not on the risk side of things. And a big one is reducing food noise. Now, that may or may not be a term you resonate. Different, like I said, different people start these medications for different reasons, but food noise is kind of this just incessant thoughts about food for different reasons. Maybe it's excitement about food, maybe it's dread about food, like there can be different emotions attached. Maybe you're always planning something or thinking of the next thing, or maybe there's a lot of anxiety in there in terms of, if I eat this, will it hurt me? Or if you have multiple conditions, that tends to ramp up because you're trying to manage so many different things and you don't want to, negate one thing by doing this thing and it gets a little messy there. Um, but the risks with GLP-1s, there are some significant risks as well. Oh, sorry, I see a little question in the chat. Emotional eating. I'll answer that one. It can help a little bit with emotional eating, but it doesn't affect the root cause with that. So emotional eating, as it's described, like it comes from our emotions. It's a response, and often it's a learned response. We do have a mechanism in our brain where food is a pleasure stimulus. So inherently, we are emotional eaters simply because we're designed to seek out food for the pleasure of it. That is built in, just like it's built in to seek out intimate relations to procreate and not let our species die. Same reason there. Um, so there's no real separating emotions and eating, but this learned response of using it as a coping mechanism can be managed. But I will say that is separate from the food noise itself. The food noise can help. The food noise dampening, I should say, can help because it relieves some of the pressure in a sense. It gives you kind of a brain break from it, and it makes it easier to sort out the emotions you are feeling that are contributing to this. Yeah, good question. Um, so those are all the benefits. And if you didn't get it yet, I'm not really pro or con in terms of GLP-1s. I see it very point blank as a tool, but like any tool, it can be used appropriately and helpfully, or it can be used unhelpfully and dangerously. So I want to make sure everyone's very well informed moving forward with their own choices, and if anything comes up, they have some awareness and they can manage it a little bit better. So some risks if the GLP-1s are not used, mindfully is the big one is muscle loss. And this one I find comes a little bit later in the game because at the beginning you don't notice as much. Um, but after a time on the GLP-1s, especially if you're underfeeding yourself, so you are not getting enough nutrients total or calories total, um, your body will start to tap into anything. It won't burn just fat. It will also burn muscle if it feels desperate enough that it needs to fuel itself. So we do see some muscle loss if certain steps aren't taken. And I will go through that later so you know what to do to preserve your muscle. Um, we can also see other nutritional deficiencies surface over time that contribute to hair loss, fatigue. There's a lot of GI symptoms with this. Nausea is I'd say one of the biggest ones. Reflux, constipation is also a big one. A weight regain if you stop the medication. So, for example, if you can't get it for a while, or they stop making it, or there's a shortage, or your insurance changes, that can cause some problems as well, especially if it's like on again, off again, on again, off again, that type of thing. We're sending some mixed signals to your body. And then we see other repercussions like loose skin. Over time, if we've lost a lot of muscle, that can weaken your immune response, loss of bone density. And then we have other like more immediate issues like pancreatitis that can arise. Um, Now, for that would certainly be like, that would be where I would sit down with your doctor and go over the risks to see if you are at what risk level you have for that type of thing, just to be assured that this is a really appropriate medication for you. Yeah. All right. So common side effects and challenges therein of taking the GLP-1s. So these are the biggies I see, and I kind of alluded to them already because they're in the risk section. But muscle loss, that really is a big one, and I'm gonna drive this point home a little bit today. We really want to protect muscle. A lot of the protocol I'm going to share with you shortly is focused around exactly that, protecting muscle. Now, this happens very quickly when protein intake is too low, but it also happens if total intake is too low. So you're just not getting enough nutrients, period. I see a lot of information out there about eat X amount of protein and protein, protein, protein. Protein is important. I agree. However, your body still needs all of the same nutrients it did before taking this medication, and we don't want to abandon those nutrients for the sake of protein. So balance is still a factor here too. But for the purposes of muscle loss, strength training plus protein is what we're after. Protein itself doesn't do as much to protect our muscle. Using our muscles is what does it. And you don't have to go hard. You don't have to be like a power lifter overnight. Even just engaging your muscles for a bit, so doing things like yoga, stretching, Pilates, things like that will still help. Um, Nausea, this is a big side effect, especially when people first start taking it. Often the nausea will decrease, subside a little bit once your body adapts. For some people, it doesn't go away entirely, or it shows up at certain times of the day. For what it's worth, it's very normal, even though it's uncomfortable. And there's a few things you can do to kind of avoid it. First, I would listen to your body and see if there's something that feels good to eat at this time. And that might sound ironic, but often we get nausea when we need to eat something too. It's not just a deterring signal. So maybe this means you haven't eaten enough, and you need like a cracker or something just to get something in there so your stomach has something to act on. Smaller meals will typically do a little bit better. Avoiding really heavy, kind of fatty, greasy foods will also help. Sometimes, like if you eat a big meal prior to taking your injection or taking the pill, um, your body's gonna have a hard time processing that meal. It's kind of, yeah, I don't want to say it rejects it, but it puts extra strain and work on your body when we have just signaled to it that it doesn't need to do that. So it's kind of a conflicting communication, so to speak. But I would say number one is hydration, actually. Making sure you're staying properly hydrated is also key to not just nausea, but also constipation. So I'll kind of move into that one. That's a common side effect here. It can occur through a few mechanisms. Sometimes just the slowing down of your digestive system will create the constipation. Also, if we're eating less food, there is just less in there to push out. So it might also slow down in pace. You may not go as regularly as before. I would say if it's moved out by like a few days, like spread out a few days, I wouldn't consider that too much cause for alarm because, like I said, your volume of food has also reduced, so the volume coming out is going to be reduced. But if it's been more than a few days, then I would start looking into some support for that. Fiber is a big piece of this, and so is hydration. Because a lot of folks prioritize protein, when they're on these medications, the fiber often kind of gets left off the shelf a little bit. So that's going to be one of the approaches we do to help manage all of the side effects, but also keep your body functioning well, is to prioritize protein and fiber sources. But the hydration is a big piece of that too. Now there are other people can take, not other people, but some people can take other, if you need a little bit more oomph, I would say, like over-the-counter stool softeners, Miralax, things like that. Senatee can also be very helpful for getting a movement going. I wouldn't take that like forever, just kind of use it as needed. But you can talk to your healthcare team about those options as well, or try some over-the-counter things if you think it needs a little extra nudge. But I would absolutely try water and fiber first, just as kind of that first line thing, instead of reaching right for something else to put on top of it. Because if you can eliminate the source of the cause, it won't give you problems down the road as well, and you'll be setting yourself for more success in the future. Under eating, I mentioned this before, but that's a big one. Your body still has all the same nutrient needs as it did before, and the GLP-1 does not, oh, there's a typo, does not change that. So it's really tricky to try to get to it. For the most part, I would say focus on balance. Don't get too hung up on all the micronutrients themselves, but this might be a really nice opportunity for a multivitamin for a lot of people because it's really unlikely you're hitting all your bases. Even if you eat normally, a lot of people still don't hit all their bases when it comes to those micronutrients. So, taking a nice multivitamin will help at least, yeah, cover those bases and push things off. But because we're eating less and we have less opportunity to absorb nutrients, we'll also see nutrition deficiencies occur. There could also have been a deficiency before the medication started, but now it's more stark. Now we see it coming out of the woodwork because there really is less of that nutrient available to your body. Often this is where we see hair loss as a symptom. That can be a combination of a B12 deficiency, iron deficiency, um, or it's kind of a common duo. But also just if you're not eating enough calories and you're not eating enough protein, hair loss can still come from that. Pretty much from a metabolism standpoint, if the body is feeling squeezed, right? If it's feeling like there's not enough coming in, it's going to slow the metabolism down and prioritize essential functions and start to slow or stop non-essential functions. So your body just doesn't consider hair essential to your survival. So that's often one of the things to go first, I should say. So if you notice that, that's like an early sign that maybe you aren't eating enough. I would start there. Might not be a bad idea to talk to a dietitian or get a lab test done just to check to see what your nutrients, micronutrients look like if you need to take a very specific supplement. But if you are able to eat and the suppression isn't too bad, a multivitamin should do pretty well for you. The last one is kind of a less common one, but it does come up, and especially if we go like into higher doses with this, food aversion. So sometimes our appetite gets so shut off that it's gone, and we actually kind of go in the other direction. Food is a turn off. It kind of disgusts us a little bit. It creates some nausea sometimes. And that actually makes it really difficult to live our lives because you start to notice just how much food is everywhere and a part of everything. If you make dinner for your family, if you go grocery shopping for your family, that can be really tough when the thought of food, period, is such a turnoff for our brain. So it gets really difficult, and it actually can lead to some social isolation because we spend a lot of our social time around food, right? We have lunches and family dinner and coffee dates, and we go out for snacks and a drink or something. A lot of those social moments in our life do revolve around food. So it can make us pull away from that as well. Not intentionally, but we just do because it doesn't sit well with us. So I would say for this one, just be aware of that in yourself. With the food aversion, I'm gonna give you one pointer here for that in particular. Then I'll move on so I can get through everything. But Consider the entire window you're exposed to food. That's your window here. And the inversion can kind of kick in whenever along that spectrum. So if you can do your best to minimize the time you spend thinking about food, looking at food, being around food, planning food, you're more likely to be able to eat before the aversion kicks in when you sit down to eat, if that kind of makes sense, right? So you have this opportunity, like the clock starts when you start thinking about it more or less. And anywhere in that continuum of exposure, the aversion could kick in and you could not be interested in food anymore. So in order to overcome that, try to minimize your exposure as much as possible and only like if you can get it, it's hard to do sometimes. It depends on your support system, what you have available to you. But if you can make it so that your only exposure to food is when you are sitting down to eat, that's your best odds, which results in a lot of eating out for some people because that way we don't have to interact with it. But it could also look like frozen dinners if you have a partner, if you live with a family member. You could get them to help prepare some meals. Another thing you could do is try to, I would say, meal prep on the day before you take your shot. If you're on the pill and taking it every day, this doesn't work as well. But pretty much when you're your least food averse, go ahead and meal prep for the week so you have things ready to go. And keep it simple. Don't feel like you have to be elaborate at this time. Just get it in there. Just get it in there. And with the social isolation thing, I think that's just more for awareness and finding ways to engineer other social opportunities for you so you don't end up sad and lonely. Um, hopefully you don't, but it's a slippery slope. It creeps up on us sometimes. Okay, what and how to eat, that's a piece of this too, and why it matters. So the how I find gets lost a lot. Not just what to eat, but how we eat also plays a big role in our metabolism and our body's ability to use what we're giving it efficiently. So I put these in a certain order on purpose. These are our nutrition priorities while we're on a GLP-1 medication. And they do go in order, and I put them this way because if you can't do, like, say, number three or number four, like if that's really difficult for you, you should at least focus on number one. And that's kind of the design is this is what you want to focus on first, get that down pat, then move on to number two. Worry about that one only when number one is solid. And this way you're still prioritizing the thing your body needs the most, which is eating consistently. Balance is lovely, nutrition is lovely, hydration is lovely. I love all of those things, and we should do all of those things, but none of it matters if it's not very consistent. Your body needs that consistency. Your body loves predictability. This is a key factor in how fast your metabolism operates. If you eat inconsistently and it's kind of sporadic, your body is always guessing and is going to keep your metabolism a little bit lower on the side of caution in case it doesn't get food when it thinks it's going to get food. So if you can eat, even if it's small, even if it's simple, even if it's the same thing over and over again, if you can eat regularly throughout your day, there's no one right eating pattern. You pick it, find 3 times that work and eat it those times. If you can build some consistency into the day, that's going to help your metabolism out a lot. And it'll show your body that you're not really starving because food is still coming in regularly, even if it's smaller amounts. Second piece is balance. Balance does matter too, not as much as consistency, but it does matter. When you eat less, what you eat matters more in the sense that there's less for your body to pull from. So you want to really make it count from a nutrition standpoint if you can. So really choosing high nutrient density foods, that just means there's a lot of different nutrients for the calorie value of that food. So for example, a whole grain piece of bread is a lot more nutrient dense than a white piece of bread. There's a lot more nutrients in the whole grain. There's protein in it, there's fiber in it, there's B vitamins in it, there's other micronutrients in it. So you're getting a lot out of that piece of bread, more so than the white piece of bread, for example. So you want to try to prioritize nutrient-dense foods as much as possible just to get the best bang for your buck there. And then balancing protein and fiber. Most people are very familiar with what protein is. It's going to be your animal meats, mostly dairy, and then plant-based proteins would be beans. Some whole grains are pretty good sources of protein as well. Nuts, soy, seeds, things like that. Those are all really good sources of protein. So something there, and then something with fiber. That's going to be all of your plants. So fruits, vegetables, also seeds. So they're a double whammy, and also whole grains. Um, I would say pick one from each. If you have just a simple balance, is get a protein and get a fiber in there. So you're getting some of everything. Yeah. Third is hydration. Sometimes I think that should be first, but it is third on my list. Um, we're going to get some hydration in naturally, but our hunger and our thirst are semi-connected cues, which means when we suppress one, the other often gets suppressed. So a lot of people don't feel as thirsty as they did before. Conversely, some people feel extra thirsty, and this might be because there's an electrolyte imbalance, perhaps. But we want to make sure, especially if you're nauseous, even drinking things can be difficult. So really try to prioritize that hydration even if you have to do different things than you did before, like just get a different kind of water bottle, maybe with a straw, sip on it throughout the day, that type of thing. Get a Camelback if you need to, and just, have it hooked up to you, something like that, even. It sounds silly, but we got to do what we got to do. Um, and then fourth is muscle preservation. Now, I will say, one, two, and three also contribute to muscle preservation. So it's not really last on the totem pole. Um, but the other piece that I haven't talked about yet with one, two, and three is the exercise piece, right? Where if we're balancing protein and fiber, we're getting our protein in, but the other component of that is using our muscles. And there's really no way out of that one. I find, like I said before, a lot of people don't prioritize the exercise up front. And then, like, once their body kind of starts to change shape and our skin doesn't look as nice as it once did because it's not as full, then we're like, oh, I should probably exercise and do some strength training, that kind of thing. And it's not too late. It's never too late. That's the good news, as long as you're alive. But if you can, even small amounts, like 10 minutes twice a week, does not have to be big. Even in small amounts, if you can do some sort of muscle engagement, even walking is muscle engagement. The only thing it doesn't really touch is our upper body. So maybe do some wall push-ups or lift some little weights or something. Um, Anything you can do to engage those muscles will help. This one's a use it or lose it. If the body knows that you're activating these muscles and you're using them, it is much less likely to tap into them for energy if it's feeling desperate at some point. All right, so I kind of mentioned this already as I was talking through those, but this is what this would look like in real life. Like if you want just a quick and dirty game plan, simple, straightforward, this is what I would tell you. First, pick 3 times in the day to eat, set an alarm, and have quick things ready to go, right? Maybe you have things prepared ahead of time. Maybe you have frozen dinners. Maybe you're going to make something on the fly. That's cool. Even if you do that, still have a backup. The point here is that consistency, right? So we want to have a contingency plan in case we're focused on something, or we didn't go grocery shopping, or someone interrupted us. It's just life. Things happen, right? So having some quick backups, some quick snacks, some shakes or something just to get something down the hatch at those times can help with that consistency. And then once you get in a groove, it starts to get a little bit easier. Now, I would say pick times that make sense for your life. So it doesn't have to be, don't eat at like 8:52, pick something that makes sense for you just based on the cadence of your morning, whatever your lunchtime ends up looking like, and whatever your dinner time might be. And consistency is the goal, not content, not volume. Even if you eat one bite, that is better than eating no bites. So get something in at those times. Number two, once the consistency is down pat, maybe you spent a couple of weeks on that and you're in a nice little groove. Then we start to look to balancing, and this is where the protein plus fiber comes in. Protein plus fiber, and I elaborated on fiber because I feel like that's the one most people have trouble thinking of things for. But fruit, vegetables, whole grains, beans, and seeds. Pick a protein, pick a fiber. If you pick a bean, you got the best of both worlds, and you could just eat beans if you wanted to. Number three, find a water bottle that you like. This is underrated, but if there's something about your water bottle or the vessel you're drinking out of that is not pleasant for you or annoying or a little bit of a hassle or heavy or whatever, makes the wrong sound, that's a deterrent to us interacting with that object. So it does make a difference if we pick a vessel that we enjoy interacting with, that's convenient for us to use, easy, aesthetically pleasing, suits our lifestyle. So think a little bit about the water bottle you have, and make sure you pick something that suits you and appeals to you. Keep it in your field of vision. That's also helpful. Out of sight, out of mind. Remember, our body's not sending us as many cues, so we have to rely on external things to remember to do them. Um, so put it in your field of vision. You could also you could set another reminder. I I don't want you to set a bajillion reminders because then it's going to be white noise. So I would say be choosy about where you do that too. You could use your phone as a reminder. Your work calendar can be a reminder. If you have a Google Home or an Alexa, that could be a reminder. You could recruit another person to be a reminder. Kids are really good at this. So, have different things set up. If you need a visual reminder, putting things where you often go or in your way of something also works. So, for example, putting your water bottle in front of your keys. So, you're going to grab your keys in the morning, you're going to grab your water bottle too. Something like that, right? Put it in your way a little bit so that it'll be there and you don't have to go hunting for it or forget it exists. And then number four, find some form of exercise or movement that you can do regularly. This does not have to be intense. Oh, there's another typo. Just repeatable. And again, start small. You don't have to go and bust out 90 minutes in the weights section at the gym. You don't have to do a HIIT exercise, okay? Do something that is relatively pleasant for 10 minutes. You can do more if you want. That's great. But just if you're not in the habit of exercising, you gotta start smaller, or it's gonna be overwhelming and you work out too hard, you get sore, you probably won't go back to it for a little while either. So, start where start where you can keep it up and just start small, add on to it. It is not glamorous. Nobody likes to do that. But the hardest part is just starting. So make that part as easy as possible. When I try to get myself into a new habit, my actual first goal is just getting ready for it. And I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to put my clothes on and my shoes on. That's my goal. If I happen to go work out, great. But you know what? Once I put my clothes on and my shoes on, I often do. It's just kind of the natural next step. But if I let myself get too far ahead of it, I'll overthink it and it'll feel like too big of a thing and I'll talk myself down. So break it down into whatever is easiest. Maybe this is just getting to the gym and you're like, I'll do whatever when I get there. I don't care, but I just got to get myself there. Something simple, something doable. Okay, maintaining your results. All right. Big thing about this medication is it's not magic. I don't think people really think it is, but there are some comments I see out there on the internet that make me wonder. It's a tool, like I said before, and we can wield it however we choose to wield it. But what it's really good at is creating a window of opportunity. What I mean by that is it quiets the noise, it quiets some of the challenge we have around with food. It helps us see results quicker so that we don't feel as much pressure. And because the pressure is lifted, we can start to make changes in our life to support a healthier version of ourselves without that pressure getting in our way all the time, right? It's kind of like we have an oxygen thing on. Like, I don't scuba dive, but I'm using a scuba reference. Like you have your tank on, right? But that tank isn't designed to replace air and living above the water. It's just designed to let you live and survive and relieve the pressure of having to go up and down for air the whole time while you're out there exploring, checking things out. But eventually you will come back up to air, right? So use this as a window of opportunity to set up your environment, set up your lifestyle, create some new habits so that whether you come off it or not, you're able to do so. You're able to do so successfully, and you have a new lifestyle to support the new version of yourself. Yeah. Protect your muscle. I'm not going to spend too long on this one because I already said it a lot, but muscle is very important. It does more than just help us pick things up and put them down. That's also our long-term metabolism. our muscle integrity plays a big role in driving our metabolism forward and using energy and strength training now, even if you're not looking to get stronger, just protecting what you have, protecting those assets will pay off later. Work on your environment. This is often a piece that is skipped, but our environment is a big influencer in how we interact with and make choices around food. And this is what I kind of mean by that window of opportunity is you can make some changes in your lifestyle, make some changes in your stress levels, make some changes in how food comes into your life while you're on this, so that your environment is supportive of the lifestyle you want to leave. And instead of, kind of getting in your way or disrupting you, it aids you in this journey. And then this kind of goes back to that emotional eating question a little bit, but we all have a relationship with food in our body, and this medication isn't necessarily going to it's going to change it. I'll say that, but it doesn't always give us what we want. I'll put it that way. There's a lot of different layers of complexity here with how we think of ourselves, that the nature of that relationship, there's different things that come in. We will likely discover things about ourselves and our body and how we feel about things to a new level that we haven't before on this medication. And I will just say, like, weight is one piece of this, but there's a lot of things that go into that. And this is just kind of a statement. I don't have time to even really barely scratch the surface of this tonight, but be aware of that. And I would say be patient with yourself. And if things come up, just gently explore them. Yeah. And then prepare for a transition. If you're planning to exit this medication at some point, come up with a exit. I call it an exit strategy with your doctor, with your dietitian, with your healthcare team, so they can taper your dose off. They'll work with you to make sure that you have created a lifestyle that supports this, that the habits are beginning. It takes a while for habit formation, but even just having fledgling habits can make a big difference. And even if it's not a perfect plan, just make a plan. Any plan will be better than no plan here. That way things don't catch you off guard. You're just more ready for it, right? You're looking for ways to help yourself succeed instead of just waiting for things to happen. Yeah. Okay. The missing piece that no one talks about is stress. And I didn't know where to put this in the whole conversation, so I just threw it in towards the end. Because it affects the side effects. It affects our success in terms of weight loss. It affects our success in terms of coming off the medication. But we don't want to forget that our metabolism responds to stress. So even though we're talking about food, we're talking about health, and people kind of think of that as sticking with nutrition and eating and stuff, stress is a piece of this conversation too. How much stress is in your life? How much stress are you carrying? And I just want to say stress is subjective. We can have a lot going on, but if we are clear on our priorities and we are managing that stress a certain way, it doesn't necessarily get to us the same way as if we don't have clarity around that, or we're dealing with a lot of things that really aren't ours. We tend to also absorb stress from other people and other things. So um I could also talk about this all night, but just if you find things are getting challenging for you, wherever you are on this journey, whether side effects seem to suddenly kind of rear up on you or you hit a plateau, I would say 9 times out of 10, like something stressful is behind it. Whether you're feeling more stress at work, maybe you just traveled, so you're out of your routine and your body is feeling some stress. Maybe you were sick recently. Maybe there's a lot going on in the world and you're feeling the weight of that. Maybe someone in your family is going through something. It can come from so many different places, but just be aware of that. And I would say don't necessarily immediately think something's wrong or the medication's not working or you need a different dose. That could be the case, but don't I would say look at the stress before making a decision around that. Yeah, just so you're not missing anything there. Yeah. Um, One thing I was gonna say, just real quick, I just realized I didn't put it in this presentation, but going back to the risks and the benefits, GLP-1s, we don't have a lot of evidence for the long-term effect of them. So I know a lot of doctors are recommending people stay on them. And that's a risk benefit analysis too. They're assessing that maybe you have conditions that benefit more from being managed, and that outweighs the risks of staying on it long term. But the reality is we don't actually know what all of those risks are. I shared the ones that we do know this evening, but we're still learning a lot about these medications. So beyond like 2 or 3 years, we don't have a lot of data to see how this affects the body in the long run. So, as I said before, I'm not really pro or, I'm not for them or against them. I think they're a tool, but that's really what I'm saying about this window of opportunity, right? Is thinking about using this strategically. And even if you do stay on them for a long time, setting yourself up so this is not the only thing you're relying on, right? And that can take time. That's okay. That's okay if that takes time. But start to build a lifestyle around this to support your body as well, beyond just this medication. And maybe you stay on it forever, maybe you don't, but at least that way you have some options. Yeah. Um, so just to kind of bring it all back together. Creates that window of opportunity. And really, what we fill that space with is what determines whether these results last, right? If we fill this opportunity with new changes in our lives, we start to build new habits, ways of thinking about food, prioritization, things like that, then we're going to be really set up for success. There's still going to be bumps on the road. Don't get me wrong. This isn't always a straight line, linear kind of journey, but you're going to be better equipped to handle it. You're going to have some buffer in there. And you're not going to have to go back and forth quite so much, or maybe even at all. That's the goal, is that this is a one-way ticket. Um, and I hope tonight, I know you probably have some more specific questions. I see specific questions about specific foods, but what I shared tonight, like getting those big categories in, is what counts. Don't worry too much about the minutia. It's like it's like worrying about what kind of windshield wipers you have in our car when you have a flat tire, right? It's just not relevant to the bigger thing. Get the big stuff down. If you're further in this journey and you've got the big stuff down, then sure, fiddle with the windshield wipers. Get those little things in line. That's the adjustment piece. Those are the nice little tweaks and specificities we add to really make it our thing. And that's fine, but don't start there. That's not our starting point. We got to get the big pieces in place first, and then we fill in the rest. That's how that works. So I hope you got some value from this. And if anything tonight resonated, I do just want to share a little bit about working with me, if that's of interest to you. Um, I have a membership, and it's very pink because I like pink. But I also like green, so that's in there too. And it's the Taste and Thrive Club. I'm not that original, but that's the club. And this is specifically, it's designed for people who are tired of feeling overwhelmed by mixed information and juggling multiple health needs and kind of finding the best path forward, both for them in terms of the path of least resistance, but also a path that honors all those needs of their body and doesn't, trade one for another. It's for people that care about their health, but just want it to feel a little bit easier and less consuming so we can also live our lives and enjoy things. Um, my assistant just popped in the chat a link to our one pager on this if you want to grab that and read over it and look at it. I always like to have something in my hand, or I guess my phone, whatever I'm looking at. Um, if you've tried diets, if you've tried this and that and nothing has really clicked or worked, this would also be a really good space because we go deep. We're going to get to the mechanisms that are driving your behaviors and your decisions around food. And we're going to go right to the source there. Um, we don't have any rules with this, but we will set some new boundaries around food. Rules and boundaries are different things. Rules are things that are imposed upon us by others, or that we kind of just pick up along our life, but don't necessarily fit or apply or are relevant to us. But boundaries are things we set for ourselves, right? To protect us from other things, sometimes to protect us from ourselves. So it's about, ditching the rules that don't work for us anymore, but setting some boundaries so we stay true to our greatest good. And maybe you've had a lot of the pieces. A lot of people do. We kind of collect little nuggets of information. We try things out. Okay, this worked, but that didn't, so I'll keep that. So maybe you have kind of this collection of tools and things you've tried, but you're just not quite sure how to put them together in the way that works best for you. This would also be a good space to explore that and to help put the puzzle together, so to speak. And this is really a real support program. It's not, I said program, but it's not like you know, lose 20 pounds in 12 weeks or something. It's not like a get rich quick scheme, but for but for nutrition and food. This is meant for real life. My goal with all of my clients is that we build something and you don't need me anymore. Quite blank. It's about setting up a lifestyle that supports your health so you don't have to go back and forth. You have a lot more confidence and clarity around it. It's also easy. When I say easy, I just mean it aligns with you. Things are often hard because they're not for us and we're trying to make them fit. So that's another piece here is we'll go through whatever you've been grappling with and really look at it and say, well, maybe this isn't even supposed to be for me, right? Maybe I can now let that go and find what works for me and keep that instead. Yeah. So the bones of the club, there's 3 live touch points, 3 live sessions, kind of like this evening, where it's me talking, but it's us talking. It's a little bit more give and take, not just me talking at you. Um, but we have a monthly nutrition workshop. So a nutrition topic, and I do kind of pick these to pace people in certain ways, depending on who we have in the group and what's relevant at the time. So it'll be practical, real life kind of nutrition things, skill building, designed to bring joy back. Not just your kitchen. I don't know why I ended it on kitchen, but kitchen in your life, everything from meal planning, picking something out at a restaurant, really anything in that food continuum. We'll also have a monthly bring your questions call. So this is kind of like whatever comes up for you, jot it down, and this is your place to just ask your questions, right? And that always happens because it's funny, when we're talking about food, we're often out of context, right? Most of you are probably not eating or shopping or cooking right now. So we're not in the right context. And a lot of things come up when we do those things, right? That we don't necessarily think of when we're in session together. So that's the moment, jot it down, put a note in your phone, send yourself a voice note or an email, and then bring those questions to the call so we can work through them. We'll also have a monthly reset. This is kind of our safety net, right? If life just gets carried away and you get thrown off course and it runs away with you, things get super busy, something happens, who knows? This is our reset point. You can always come back. We will get you back on your routine. We will start again. We will maybe start a different path if this one didn't work. Usually we can go back to the first path, just a few tweaks. Um, or if you're still on course, this can be a really good time to just do your monthly planning, do your meal prep. We can all be probably prepping some stuff together with you. We'll just kind of play it by ear based on who shows up and what they need that day. In addition to those 3 monthly live calls, I'm also going to share some tools and resources via email. So things like done for you breakfast and lunch ideas. That's one of the things I get asked the most is I just don't know what to eat for breakfast. So I'll feed you one or two a week, so you have some options to choose from. Oh, thanks. That's nice. You're welcome. Sorry, just looking at the comment there. So I'll give you some ideas. No, you may not love all of them, but I'll also teach you how to adapt them. So if you're like, oh, well, I don't eat dairy, I'll make sure there's a dairy-free option in there for you, something like that. And they're all designed to be quick, simple, or batch cook, meaning you make it once and you got it for the week, that kind of thing. So very ease is my priority here. How easy can we fit this into your life? And that will help support that consistency and that nutrient balance. You'll get recipes. I'll have some, if you like to go deeper on stuff, there's also going to be some journal reflection prompts in there, some worksheets if you want to work on things. So lots of good stuff in there, curated weekly to reduce your decision fatigue, improve your confidence around food, get clear on your priorities, and really, there's another spelling check. Oh, well. Really identify what's holding you back, like what's getting in your way. That's my favorite question to ask people when they come to me with a nutrition problem. The first thing I say is, what do you think is getting in your way? It's usually not us. We're taught to think it's us, but it's often not. There's something somewhere in our environment that is is actually getting in our way. And once we relieve that, things get a lot easier. It doesn't always have to be hard. Um, all right. So, oh, I had a bonus. I forgot about that. Bonus, um, if you join from this call and it can be tonight, or if you want to percolate on it, I'm not like a very high pressure person whatsoever. So if you join from this call via the link in the chat there, so if you just save that, whenever you join, you will still get this bonus. It's a 12-week reframe. So this is it's kind of like a course, but I am pacing you for 12 weeks to really walk you through setting up a new structure for your life. It's a lot of what we talked about this evening, but I'm giving you one thing to focus on a week, so you don't have competing priorities. There's no confusion. It's just clarity. You can focus on the thing, do the thing. Okay, cool, check. We did that. We're going to add the next thing on now, and we really just go up the ladder. And that way you get some momentum, you get some, we start seeing some success, you feel more confident right from the get-go. So it's a nice little roadmap with that clear weekly focus in your first 12 weeks of the membership. So that'll be your bonus from this evening's call. All right, founding member. So this is a relatively new group that I've put together. I've done many groups over my lifetime. That's how I got to 40,000 clients, was by doing large groups of them. But I have two options. Founding member is $125 a month, and I am limiting this to the first 25 members. Now, this is the founding member price because it's a new group. Once the first 25 people join, it's going to be up from there. And it includes all 3 live monthly calls, the nutrition workshop, bring your questions, and the reset. It includes the bonus 12-week reframe, your weekly breakfast ideas, reflection prompts, and you get 25% off one-on-one sessions if you need a little extra, help to work through something in particular. Maybe you have a trip coming up and you want a game plan for the trip. Maybe something happened in life or a life transition occurred and you need help navigating that. Maybe you got a new diagnosis or new health challenge to manage. Now, one caveat here, and this is all explained once you sign up as well, is depending on where you're located, depends on how I can help you. So if you're located in a region where I'm licensed, we can go into nutrition counseling and get really nitty-gritty with things from a medical side. But if not, we'll just have to stick with the more lifestyle factors, which I will say, and I'm not trying to like shortchange you whatsoever. That's mostly what we're gonna do anyway. The nutrition piece, it's like, I don't know, it's not that big for most people. I shouldn't say for everyone. For some people, it is a big piece, and it might be worth exploring that too. But that would be included. It's just 25% off whichever option suits you best. So it's really just going to depend on where you live. I am registered to practice in Ontario and about 20 US states. So there's a really good chance I'm licensed where you live, but it's just not the whole world. So I can't say that. And then if you like a little extra zhuzh, I do have a VIP founding member as well. The big difference for this is that there's only 10 spots available because it's going to take a little bit more of my personal attention. You get everything in the founding membership, plus 4 included one-on-one sessions a year to use whenever you like. So they're paced quarterly, but you don't have to use them quarterly. You can kind of save them up if you want, or a lot of people like to use them before and after the holidays. That's a very popular one. Before and after trips. Like I mentioned, any life transition like moving or a new family member or going through a job transition even, right? Those types of things affect our environment and our schedules, so they can get us off kilter. So those one-on-one sessions are already built into the price, so you can just book them when you need them. No extra fee on top of that. And then you will also get first and exclusive access to any new offers that I create before it goes out to the public. So you also get first dibs on things. And those are the 2 options. So founding member is $125, VIP founding member is $185. And I do have 2 options to pay. I have a USD link and a Canadian dollar link as well that I believe my assistant can pop in the chat. Um, if you click that little flyer, the one-page flyer that I put in the chat there, or that she put in the chat, Leanne put in the chat, there we go. Thanks. That has both currencies on it, so you don't have to worry about it. Just pick whichever one works for you, where you're located. All right. That's all I got. Oh my gosh, I'm 6 minutes over. I'm so sorry. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me. I will stay on for a little bit and answer any questions if anyone has any last minute things. I didn't really see that much in the chat, so I don't know if that's a good thing and I just covered it all, or it's just, there's questions people don't want to ask out loud, which I understand. Like I said, this gets pretty personal and um, it's a group of strangers. So fair enough. Fair enough. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Yeah. So yeah, this is if you have questions later, please don't hesitate to reach out. Whether you join the club or not. Obviously, I'd like you to join my membership. That's, how I make a living. But if you have questions, I'll still answer your questions. You hopefully got a little bit of a feel for me tonight. I'm not high pressure. I see myself as a guide. I'm here to be of service and help you make informed decisions about what you want to do with your health and your body. In any way I can help you with that, I'm happy to. So, um, thank you all for your time this evening. It's been a pleasure, and have a good rest of your night or day. Probably night. Take care, everyone.